Death has been offering to Savitri gifts to soothe her wounded life. And he says, I can give gifts to soothe thy wounded life. These, if thy will accepts, make freely thine. Choose a life's hopes for thy deceiving prize. Would you like to continue from there, Turiya?
I seized the ruthless and tremendous voice. Unendingly there rose in Savitri, like moonlit ridges on a shuddering flood, a stir of thoughts out of some silence born. Across the sea of her dumb, fathomless heart. At last she spoke. Her voice was heard by night. I bow not to thee, O huge mask of death, black lie of night, to the cowed soul of man, unreal, inescapable end of things. Thou grim jest played with the immortal spirit. Conscious of immortality, I walk. A victor spirit conscious of my force. Not as a suppliant to thy gates I came. Unslain, I have survived the clutch of night. My first strong grief moves not my seated mind. My unwept tears have turned to pearls of strength. I have transformed my ill-shaped brittle clay into the hardness of the statued soul.
Thank you. Anybody would like to ask anything about these lines?
Yes. Ridges is edge?
Ridges. What he's talking about is the way that waves look. A ridge, of course, is the edge of a mountain or something like that. Or we can have ridges marked on the ground. But in this case, it's moonlit ridges on a shuddering flood. It's the sea, it's moving like that, and there you can see the edge of the waves turning over. And there's something moving in Savitri at this offer of God, of the God of death, no? When that shuddering. Yes, so, but that's again the movement of the sea, of the waves here. And then all this stir of thoughts. He's offering her something. He says, I choose a life's hopes for thy deceiving prize. It won't be worth anything, whatever you choose. But anyway, choose. And something very deep stirs in Savitri's heart at this offer that he's making to her. What will she choose? So at last she speaks, very defiantly. I don't bow to you, death. You're just a falsehood, a black lie of night to the cowed soul of man. Human beings are too ready to fear you. You present yourself as the inescapable end of things, death, as if death must come to everything. But you are unreal. You're just like a bad joke that's being played on the immortal spirit. But you're not going to deceive me. I'm walking here conscious of immortality. I am a victor spirit and I'm conscious of my force. And I haven't come to you like a beggar, not as a suppliant, have I come to your gates. You've seen how I was not forced to die. Unslain, I have survived the clutch of your night. Yes, I felt a strong grief when you took away the soul of Satyavan. But that first strong grief is not moving my mind. My mind is still firm and steady. The tears which I haven't wept have turned to pearls of strength. I have transformed my ill-shaped, brittle clay, my physical body, into the hardness of a statued soul. It's not going to be broken so easily. Tara.
Now, in the wrestling of the splendid gods, my spirit shall be obstinate and strong against the vast refusal of the world. I stood not with the subject mob of minds, who run to glean with eager, satisfied hands and pick from its mire, mid many trampling feet, its scornful, small concessions to the weak. Mine is the labor of the battling gods, imposing on the slow, reluctant years the flaming will that reigns beyond the stars. They lay the law of mind on matter's works and win the soul's wish from earth's inconscient force.
Thank you again. These are very defiant words. Are they clear? Anybody would like to ask anything about these lines?
Are these last 4 lines describing the work of the gods?
Sorry?
The last 4 lines.
Would you read the lines?
Imposing on the slow, reluctant ear, the flaming will that reigns beyond the stars. They lay the law of mind on matter's earth and win the soul's wish from earth's inconscient force.
Yes. So these lines, yes. So she says, I'm not like ordinary minds, the subject mob of minds. And the image he gives is of somebody scattering coins for poor people to run and pick them up, pick up whatever they can. But she says, I'm not like that, who run to glean. It means to pick up the last little remnants. They're eager, satisfied hands, they pick things up, the scornful, small concessions to the weak. Whatever life will give to them. She says, well, I am one of those battling gods who is imposing on time, on the slow, reluctant years which don't want things to change. Along with those gods, I'm imposing the flaming will that reigns beyond the stars, beyond the limits of the material universe. Those gods, what they are doing, they are imposing the law of mind on matter in order to win what the soul desires, to win the soul's wish from Earth's inconscient force, from the material world. The divine beings can impose by the power of mind, by the power of will, they can impose a higher order on this material world. So she says this as an introduction to how she's going to answer him. He's made her an offer, yes?
Yes. She says mine is the labor of the battling gods.
She makes herself the equal of the... Yes.
Line 2, 3, 5. She says, now in the wrestling of the splendid gods. So are they the same gods or?
Yes, it's the same gods. And these gods have different aims, even. If we go right back to the very beginning of the poem, there's these gods battling. They have different aims. She's going to claim her aim. She's claiming back the soul of Satyavan.
I think what now came together is so interesting that she is expressing, she does the same work as the gods. No? So that is the
Yes.
career get in our mind.
Yes. She's claiming to be the equal of those battling gods, yes. Ushi, will you read what she asks?
First, I demand whatever Satyavan, my husband, waiting in the forest charm. Out of his long, pure childhood's lonely dreams, desired and had not for his beautiful life. Give, if thou must, or if thou canst, refused. Thus bowed his head in scornful cold assent, the builder of this dreamlike earth for man, who has mocked with vanity all gifts he gave. Uplifting his disastrous voice he spoke, indulgement to the dreams my touch shall break. I yield to his blind father's longing heart, kingdom and power and friends and greatness lost, and royal strapping for his peaceful age. The pallid pomps of man's declining days, the silvered decant glory of life's fall. The one who wiser grew by adverse fate, gods I restore, the deluded soul prefers, to impersonal nothingness bare sublime. Desin, this word I don't know.
The sensuous solace.
And the light I gave to eyes which could have found a larger realm, a deeper vision in their fathomless night. For that this man desired and asked in vain, while still he lived on earth and cherished hope. Back from the grandeur of my perilous realms, go, mortal, to thy small permitted sphere. Hasten swift-footed, lest to slay thy life. The great laws thou hast violated, moved open at last of thee their marble eyes.
Thank you. So she tells him, give, if you have to give me something. If you can, you don't give me anything, if you can refuse. And he bows his head, he agrees, he accepts. He does that as the builder of this dream-like earth for man. He's built this, that's his idea, that all this is his creation. And he has mocked with vanity all gifts he gave. And that's what he's going to do again now. He says, whatever gift I give you, it won't be worth much. But this is what he's offering. He says, indulgent to the dreams my touch shall break. So I'm going to give something, it will satisfy or it will respond to the wishes of Satyavan's blind father. I yield to his blind father's longing heart all the things he wanted and didn't have. Kingdom and power and friends and greatness lost and royal trappings for his peaceful age, that he won't have to live in the forest anymore, that he can really live like a king with the respect that's due to a king. And the pallid pomps, the pale glories of man's declining days. As we grow older, our glories grow less and less. The silvered, decadent glories of life's fall. Something that's decadent is falling away from its summit. So that's what happens to us in old age. Death says that Satyavan's father grew wiser because of this adverse fate he had to undergo, this stay in the forest. But now he says, I'm giving back to him gifts, good things, that the deluded soul prefers. It's making a mistake, but anyway, it is preferring these goods that I'm giving to the bare sublimity of impersonal nothingness. That would be more valuable. But anyway, I'm giving back to him the sensuous solace of the light. He will be able to see. This will soothe and please the senses of sight. I'm giving back sight to these eyes, which could have found a larger realm, a deeper vision in their fathomless night. This is something that crops up in literature again and again, that perhaps it is wiser, that the blindness can be a gift which gives a deeper experience, a deeper knowledge than our ordinary everyday sight. It's just a suggestion. Again, he's trying to reduce the value of the gift that he's giving. These eyes could have found a larger realm, the realm of subtle sight, inner sight, a deeper vision in that deep, immeasurable night which they are suffering. But that's what this man, this is what Satyavan desired and asked in vain while still he lived on earth and cherished hope. That's what I'm giving. So now you have to turn back from the grandeur of my perilous realms, my dangerous kingdoms. Go, mortal. Go back, Savitri, to thy small permitted sphere, this small round of life that you are allowed. Go quickly, hasten, swift-footed, lest the great laws that you have violated, moved, open at last on thee their marble eyes, as if there are eternal laws watching there. They are allowing this short play. But you'd better hurry up and go back to your human realm, Savitri. Otherwise, they will open their eyes and see that you have violated their laws, and there will be some punishment to follow. But Savitri is not impressed.
Bhavan, what it means, pallid?
Pallid, it means pale, without bright colors.
And line 252, the builder of this dreamlike earth for man.
That he's claiming to be that builder.
He's claiming to be that.
Yes. Karen, would you like to read?
But Savitri answered the disdainful shade, World Spirit, I was thy equal spirit born. My will too is a law, my strength a god. I am immortal in my mortality. I tremble not before the immobile gaze of the unchanging marble hierarchies that look with the stone eyes of law and fate. My soul can meet them with its living fire. Out of thy shadow give me back again into earth's flowering spaces, Satyavan, in the sweet transiency of human limbs, to do with him my spirit's burning will. I will bear with him the ancient mother's load. I will follow with him the earth's path that leads to God. Else shall the eternal spaces open to me, while round us strange horizons far recede, traveling together the immense unknown. For I, who have trod with him the tracts of time, can meet behind his steps whatever night or unimaginable stupendous dawn breaks on our spirits in the untrod beyond. Wherever thou leadst his soul, I shall pursue.
Anything to ask? She claims to be his equal. No? I was thy equal spirit born. I am immortal in my mortality. So I'm not afraid of these gods you're threatening with me with, these marble eyes. I tremble not before the immobile gaze of the unchanging marble hierarchies that look with the stone eyes of law and fate. My soul can meet them with its living fire. She is not intimidated. And she demands, out of thy shadow, give me back again into earth's flowering spaces, Satyavan. Give him back to me alive in the sweet transiency of human limbs, to do with him my spirit's burning will. I will bear with him the ancient mother's load. Here the ancient mother, earth. It's a kind of load, being an earthling living on earth. I will follow with him earth's path that leads to God. And otherwise, the eternal spaces will open up to me, while round us, the two of us, I will go on following Satyavan. Round us, strange horizons far recede, traveling together the immense unknown. For I, who have trod with him the tracts of time, with time and life on earth, I can meet behind his steps like a real traditional Indian spouse. She will follow in the footsteps of her husband. I, who have trod with him the tracts of time, can meet behind his steps whatever night or unimaginable stupendous dawn. Perhaps our fate is not going to be night at all. It's going to be a glorious dawn, maybe. Whatever breaks on our spirits in the untrod beyond, where no mortal feet have trod. Wherever thou leadst his soul, I shall pursue, I will follow him, wherever you take him.
This line 287, having bare with him the ancient mother's load, does she mean she bare his child?
Sorry?
Like ancient mother, she have a child with Satyavan? You mean that?
No, I don't think so. The ancient mother is the earth goddess.
Yes, that is there, but all mothers.
Yes. So, and the load of earth, there is a kind of load of difficulty which we material beings have to carry. It is different from what the spirits who don't have physical bodies, they have a different kind of load to bear, maybe. She's talking about the load of earth. I want to return with him to this material world and live with him here on earth. Is it okay?
And line 281, 1. The unchanging marble hierarchies that look to the stone eyes of law and faith.
That's what he's been threatening with these marble, unchangeable ranks of law, and he threatens her with these things, but she's not impressed.
Yeah. But suddenly I thought about what Shlokindo writes at the beginning about the stairs and the different beings.
Yes, there are these marble hierarchies, but here I think he's insisting on his role. I think Death is insisting on his role as the god of law and of karma and consequence.
He's also saying stone eyes and these
Yeah,
laws of
Yes, they are not kind, loving eyes. They are marble eyes. They can't really see, no? Or they see in a very brutal sort of way. That's how I understand it.
Nothing to do, huh? Nothing to do with the ones which are...
Those are hierarchies too. But what he's talking about are the hierarchies of law. And that's what she's going to answer him with. Your laws don't impress me that much either. So we stopped with this line, wherever thou leadst his soul, I shall pursue. But death goes on contradicting her. Helmut, you would read?
But to her claim opposed, implacable, insisting on the immutable decree, insisting on the immitigable law and the significance of created things. Out of the rolling wastes of night there came, born from the enigma of the unknowable depths, a voice of majesty and appalling scorn. As when the storm-haired titan striding sea throws on a swimmer its tremendous laugh, remembering all the joy its waves have drowned. So from the darkness of the sovereign night, against the woman's boundless heart arose the almighty cry of universal death. Hast thou God wings, or feet that tread my stars? Frail creature with the courage that aspires, forgetting thy bounds of thought, thy mortal role. Their orbs were coiled before thy soul was formed. I, death, created them out of my void. All things I have built in them and I destroy. I made the worlds my net, each joy a mesh, a hunger amorous of its suffering prey, life that devours, my image see in things. Mortal, whose spirit is my wandering breath, whose transience was imagined by my smile, flee clutching thy poor gains to thy trembling breast, pierced by my pangs, time shall not soon appease. Blind slave of my death force, whom I compel to sin, that I may punish, to desire that I may scourge thee with despair and grief, and thou come bleeding to me at the last, thy nothingness recognized, my greatness known. Turn nor attempt forbidden happy fields, meant for the souls that can obey my law. Lest in their somber shrines thy thread awake from their uneasy iron-hearted sleep the Furies who avenge fulfilled desire. Dread lest in skies where passion hope to live, the unknown's lightning start and terrified lone, sobbing, hunted by the hounds of heaven. Wounded and forsaken soul, thou flee through the long torture of the centuries. nor many lives exhaust the tireless wrath. Hell cannot slake, nor heaven's mercy assuage.
Thank you. This is the almighty cry of universal death. He's really very fierce. And he mocks her. He says, do you think you've got divine wings or feet that can tread my stars? You are so frail. You're a human being. Your life is limited. Your body is weak. You have this courage that aspires, but you can only aspire like that if you forget your limits, your bounds of thought, your mortal role, the fact that you are a being subject to death and ignorance. Their orbs, this refers to my stars. Their orbs were coiled before thy soul was formed. They've been there for eons. I, death, created them out of my nothingness. All things I have built in them, among these stars, and I destroy. I made the worlds my net, a net to catch people and things. Each joy is a mesh of that net which keeps you tied. A hunger, amorous of its suffering prey, that enjoys devouring. Life that devours. This is my image that you should be seeing in all things. You are a mortal, you're subject to death and ignorance, and your spirit is my wandering breath, whose transience was imagined by my smile. I laughed when I created it. So now, run away, please. Flee, clutching thy poor gains, whatever small things I have given you. Hold them to your trembling breast. You will be pierced by my pangs, my punishments, which time will not soon soothe them. They will last a long time. You are just a blind slave of my death force, and I compel you, human being, to sin so that I can punish you. I compel you to desire so that I can punish you with that, scourge you with despair and grief, and at the end you will come bleeding to me at the last, to death. Your nothingness recognized, my greatness known. Turn back. Don't attempt to continue into these forbidden happy fields, these happy fields of heaven, which are meant for the souls that can obey my law. If you don't, what will happen is that your tread, the tread of your feet, will disturb in their somber shrines. They will wake up from the uneasy, iron-hearted sleep, the furies, the vengeful spirits who punish fulfilled desire. These furies belong to Greek mythology, and that is their task, to avenge fulfilled desire. Dread, you should be fearful now, lest in skies where your passion for Satyavan, you hoped that you would live in those heavens, the unknown's lightnings start. The vengeful gods will strike you down with bolts of lightning, and then you will have to run away, terrified, alone, sobbing, haunted by those hounds, those hunting dogs of heaven. A wounded and forsaken soul, you will have to flee, go on fleeing through the long torture of the centuries. And many lives will not exhaust the tireless wrath, which even suffering in hell cannot quench, nor can even heaven's mercy make it less. We do not have to believe this dark voice. We don't have to pay attention to his threats. And Savitri knows that very well.
For me, so in a way, how what he's describing, that is the normal life outside in the day, the threatening and putting sin on people, and it seems also here it's only working when you accept the law, how is it.
Yeah. So Savitri is not going to accept all this. She knows much better. But he's trying to terrify her because he hasn't yet been able to recognize who she is, who she really is. But perhaps Sri Aurobindo is also sharing this with us, as Margaret said, because these are kind of common conceptions that are there in humanity. And he can remind us of them. And Savitri is going to do just the opposite. That's constantly what she's doing throughout this book, book 10. Yes, Jerry?
Could we read this text also as an inner dialogue of Savitri?
Within herself.
All these things that are described here are constantly in all of its happening. We all of us have constantly the choice of following the truth of our soul or our fear of what we think is physically reality. But we all know that the physical reality is not the ultimate reality. So it's a beautiful inner dialogue also that's clarifying a lot of the questions put here.
I think that's the point, is clarification. Yes.
It's a beautiful way done, but with the realization that this thing is happening in all of us. That's a kind of inner.
I remember when we first started to read this book 10 some years back in the other little place. One of the younger people attending, he said, "But that's what we all think." And that is why Sri Aurobindo has put it here, and why he's answering it. There's a line even that says, "Death, you are speaking truth, but the truth that you are speaking is a destructive truth. And what I'm answering you with is a truth that saves, that uplifts, and saves." But it's interesting to have this dialogue played out for us.
You pronounce wrath? How do you pronounce?
W-R-A-T-H, wrath, anger, fury. So he makes all these threats to her, but then he says, I will take from thee the black eternal grip. I'm giving you a chance, clasping in thy heart thy fate's exiguous doles, whatever small good things your fate allows you. Now you depart in peace. Go away. I won't do anything to you. If peace for man is just. But Savitri answers him. Again, he's mocking her. He says, I'm letting you go. Do you really think that human beings deserve my mercy, my peace?
Can the Furies be mapped onto Indian mythology?
I don't know about that. For me, they come from ancient Greek mythology, and there they are the terrible, vengeful spirits. No. So, but Sri Aurobindo's drawing on the whole scale of human experience in these lines.
Shadavan, in the Greek mythology, the Fury is the Gorgon.
The Gorgon, she's not exactly. The Furies, they are kind of terrible birds who will come and with their beaks tear apart whoever's done anything, violated these laws. And it's a kind of eternal punishment. It goes on and on. So he generously says, I'm going to take this black eternal grip away from you, and you can go back. But Savitri refuses. Larry, would you read?
But Savitri answered, meeting scorn with scorn. The mortal woman to the dreadful Lord. Who is this God imagined by thy night, contemptuously creating worlds disdained? Who made for vanity the brilliant stars? Not he who has reared his temple in my thoughts and made his sacred floor my human heart. My God is will and triumphs in his paths. My God is love and sweetly suffers all. To him I have offered hope for sacrifice and gave my longings as a sacrament. Who shall prohibit or hedge in his course the wonderful, the charioteer, the swift? A traveler of the million roads of life, his steps familiar with the lights of heaven, tread without pain the sword-paved courts of hell. There he descends to edge eternal joy. Love's golden wings have power to fan thy void. The eyes of love gaze starlike through death's night. The feet of love tread naked, hardest worlds. He labors in the depths, exalts on the heights. He shall remake thy universe, O death. She spoke, and for a while no voice replied, while still they traveled through the trackless night. And still that gleam was like a pallid eye, troubling the darkness with its doubtful gaze. Then once more came a deep and perilous pause in that unreal journey through blind naught. Once more a thought, a word in the void arose, and death made answer to the human soul.
Let's pause there. Thank you. What kind of a God is this? She says. What kind of God are you imagining? With your night, with your darkness. This God who's just creating contemptuously, without respect, with disgust, worlds which he doesn't care about at all, who's made our brilliant stars just for nothing, for vanity. That's not the God who has built his temple in my thoughts. The God who has made my human heart his sacred floor. My God is will and triumphs in his path. What he does is not useless and meaningless. My God is love, and sweetly suffers all. Here the word suffers means allows, permits. He doesn't forbid anything. To him I have offered hope. That's my sacrifice, my offering. And I've given my longings as a sacrament, as a sacred offering to him. Who shall prohibit or hedge in his course? My God, the wonderful, the charioteer, the swift. The charioteer is a allusion to Lord Krishna, I believe. He is a traveler of the million roads of life. His steps are familiar with the lights of heaven, but they also tread without pain the sword-paved courts of hell, which Sri Aurobindo has described in an earlier canto. There he descends even into hell to edge, to give some sharpness, some cutting edge to eternal joy. Love's golden wings have power to fan thy void, your emptiness. The golden wings of love can fly wherever they want in your empty darkness. The eyes of love gaze star-like through death's night. The feet of love tread naked, hardest worlds. They're ready to suffer if necessary. He labors, he works hard in the depths, and exults, he delights on the heights. That God whom I worship, he shall remake your universe, O death, your imagined world. She spoke, and for a while no voice replied. while still they travelled through the trackless night. So they're still moving forward somehow. And still that gleam, that little light in the darkness, which is the sign of Savitri's presence. It's like a pallid eye, a little pale eye, and it's troubling the darkness with its doubtful gaze. But then Death comes back with his answer. Then once more came a deep and perilous pause in that unreal journey through blind nothingness. Once more a thought, a word in the void arose, and death made answer to the human soul.
Previously, Death says, I, Death, created them out of my void.
My emptiness, my nothingness. I've brought them into existence out of nothing, and they'll just go back to nothing.
It's not the God's void which has everything, no?
In this case, I think his void is empty, yes. I think so. Would you like to read on, please, Bhavana? What is thy hope?
What is thy hope? To what dost thou aspire? This is my body's sweetest lure of bliss. Assailed by pain, a frail, precarious form, to please for a few years thy faltering sense with honey of physical longing and the heart's fire, and a vain oneness seeking to embrace the brilliant ardor of a fugitive hour. And thou, what art thou, soul, the glorious dream of brief emotions made and glittering thoughts, a thin dance of fireflies speeding through the night, a sparkling ferment in life's sunlit mire. Wilt thou claim immortality, O heart, crying against the eternal witnesses that thou and he are endless powers and last? Death only lost and the inconscient void. I only am eternal and endure. I am the shapeless, formidable vast. I am the emptiness that men call space. I am a timeless nothingness carrying all. I am the illimitable, the mute alone. I, Death, am He. There is no other God. All from my depths are born, they live by death. All to my depths return and are no more. I have made a world by my inconscient force. My force is nature that creates and slays the hearts that hope, the limbs that long to live. I have made man her instrument and slave. His body I made my banquet, his life my food. Man has no other help but only death. He comes to me at his end for rest and peace. I, Death, am the one refuge of thy soul.
Thank you. Oh, what are you hoping for? What are you aspiring for? This is thy body's sweetest lure of bliss. That's the the best thing you can think of. Although the body is attacked by pain, it's a frail, precarious form that doesn't last long. To please, for a few years, your faltering sense, your sense which also will soon cease to enjoy, but to please it for a few years with honey of physical longings and the hearts of fire, and a vain oneness, seeking to embrace the brilliant idol of a fugitive hour, a short-lived moment of delight. And thou, Savitri, what art thou, soul? Thou glorious dream of brief emotions made and glittering thoughts. Though like a thin dance of fireflies speeding through the night. Have you sometimes seen that? Yeah? A sparkling ferment in life's sunlit mire, some kind of luminous gas floating above the marsh. Are you going to claim immortality, O heart? Crying against the eternal witnesses, are you claiming that you and he, you and Satyavan, are endless powers, that you will last forever? Death only lasts, and the inconscient void, the emptiness. This is his claim. I only am eternal and endure. I am the shapeless, formidable vast. That vast emptiness of the universe. If we imagine the soul lost and wandering in that emptiness, it's really something formidable. I am the emptiness that men call space. I am a timeless nothingness, carrying all. I am the illimitable. There's no end to me. I am the mute, the silent, alone, the one. I, death, am he. There is no other God. All phenomena, all beings, all existences are born from my depths of nothingness. They live by death. All to my depths of nothingness return, and then they don't exist anymore. I have made a world by my inconscient force, my force without any consciousness. My force is nature that creates and slays the hearts that hope, the limbs, the bodies that long to live. I have made man the instrument and slave of nature. I have made his body my banquet of delicious food. His life is my food. Man has no other help but only death. He comes to me at his end for rest and peace. I, death, am the one refuge of thy soul. Alice, you like to read?
the gods to whom man prays can help not man. They are my imaginations and my moods, reflected in him by illusion's power. That which thou seest as thy immortal self is a shadowy icon of my infinite. Is death indeed dreaming of eternity? I am the immobile in which all things move. I am the nude inane in which they cease. I have no body and no tongue to speak. I commune not with human eye and ear. Only thy thought gave a figure to my void. Because, O aspirant to divinity, thou callest me to wrestle with thy soul, I have assumed a face, a form, a voice. But if there were a being witnessing all, how should he help thy passionate desire? Aloof he watches soul and absolute, indifferent to thy cry in nameless calm. His being is pure, unwounded, motionless, one. One endless watches the inconscient scene where all things perish as the foam, the stars. The one lives forever. There is no such a one. Changing was born, and there was no Savitri. Claims from breath, life, her bribe of joy. There love came never with his fretful eyes of tears. Nor time is there, nor the vain vasts of space. It wears no living face. It has no name, no gaze, no heart that throbs. It asks no second to aid its being or to share its joys. It is delight immortally alone. If thou desirest immortality, be then alone, sufficient to thy soul. Live in thyself. Forget the man thou lovest. My last grand death shall rescue thee from life. Then shalt thou rise into the unmoved source.
Thank you. Anything to ask? We're getting a bit tired of this death and his claims. No?
It is super ego.
Yeah.
It all sounds very empty.
Empty, yeah. Yes. That's because we have heard, on the other hand, the Savitri's voice, the voice of truth, no? Which is much more convincing. Thanks to Sri Aurobindo.
a thought, a word in the void above. And death made answer to the human soul. Wilt thou claim immortality, O heart, crying against the eternal witnesses that thou and he are endless powers and lost? Death only lost, and the inconstant void. All from my depths are born, they live by death. All to my depths return, and are no more. I, death, am the one refuge of thy soul.